Hey, welcome back to Stacy's Creative Kitchen. Tonight I'm going to be taking a look at some leftovers and seeing if we can turn them into something amazing. The other night I was grilling out and I made some baked sweet potatoes. I guess I was overestimating the amount of people who were going to want to eat baked sweet potatoes, so I have 4 or 5 left over. So what I've decided to do is to create a tasty puree to go with some amazing Caribbean inspired pork chops. First things first, I have in my bowl some of my leftover sweet potatoes. I wanted to show you how easy it is to just slip the peel off. Okay, while the potato is cold, pro tip, do it while it's cold, then you don't burn your hand. Go ahead and just make a slit down the potato and it'll peel off just like you're peeling a banana. Just like that. Done. How easy is that? Give my hands a quick rinse. And to that, I've gone ahead and reheated these potatoes. So most of them are going to be pretty warm already. You could do it on the stove top as well, but I kind of wanted you to get the full effect as we're doing this. So to this, I have a spice blend here of about a tablespoon or so of kosher salt. I've got about a teaspoon of granulated onion. I've got about a half teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of cloves, a quarter of a teaspoon of allspice, a quarter of a teaspoon of ginger, and a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg. I mix that all together and it makes a fragrant Caribbean inspired. You can tell all those cloves and nutmeg and allspice, those warm spices that just make you feel good. So to my mashed sweet potato, or semi-mashed, I'm gonna pour in my spice mixture. I'm gonna be kind of watching it to make sure I don't overdo it. So I'm gonna start off with just a little bit, kind of stir it to incorporate it. So it starts to look a little like this. Now notice it doesn't look anything like a puree right now. That's okay, we're not done yet. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. You could skip the butter if you don't want to. You could add coconut oil or something to give it some viscosity. That would also work. But into this, my butter goes. And I'm going to keep stirring that around. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pop it in the microwave. I know, we don't ever use the microwave. You could totally do it on the stovetop. That's fine, but for the sake of time, I'm going to stick it in the microwave so I can get that butter melted just a little bit more. So for maybe, I'm going to go with minute 30. In the meantime, I can show you what I'm going to be serving this with. I have some similar spices. The only thing, so again, about I would say a tablespoon or so of kosher salt. To this, I also have a half a teaspoon of granulated garlic, a teaspoon of granulated onion. I also have the same amount of cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, allspice, and a little bit of ginger, as well as a little kick, about a quarter of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper to give it just a little extra zip and warmth. So I've got some pork here, some pork chops, and a pretty one. There's a pretty one that I'm going to go ahead and season generously. Okay, flip it over. Get the other side as well. Keep it seasoned, and I would ordinarily let this sit for maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, something like that, to let that, essentially what's a dry rub, soak into the pork chop, okay? At that point, I'm gonna put it to one side. At that point, you can either go ahead and throw it on the grill, or you could cook it if it's cold outside or you just don't want to go outside, you want that warm taste without freezing. You can go ahead and cook it in a cast iron skillet would be great, or you can use, I like a non-stick anodized steel, that's fine as well. Any kind of pan, I would put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of it, or coconut oil if you want to carry that same flavor throughout. Coconut oil would be great as well. Pop it on the stove top, sear it on one side, flip it, sear it on the other, and cook it through until it is about the same as poultry, so you want it around 165. I would take it off at about 162, 160, in that neighborhood, because we know the carryover cooking is going to bring up the temperature even more. Okay, potatoes are done. I'm gonna grab them. All right. Okay, both is a little toasty. That's all right. Okay, so at this point I've got, oh, my butter is starting to melt. Everything is coming together nicely. So what I'm gonna do next, I have a can, about 16, 15, well, I think it's what, 14.5 is how the can comes, of coconut milk. You could use light coconut milk, you could use a full fat coconut milk, but I really want to carry through those same Caribbean type of flavors. So coconut milk it is. I'm going to start adding some of that into what's going to be my puree. And it really just depends on how thick or how thin you want yours to be. Grab my spoon rest. Now, at this point, you could go ahead and pop it into the food processor. You could use a masher or a hand mixer or something like that if you've got one of those handy in your kitchen. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more. At this point, I've added maybe a quarter of a cup, and now we're up to about a half cup or so. I'm going to give it a little spoon or a little stir. And then I'm today going to use my handy dandy stick blender, immersion blender. Love this thing. Bargain of the century, and I use it in soups or in quick purees if I don't feel like messing the whole canister up. Basically, it just pops on and pops off. There's a button, so you can pull it off, wash this part, don't wash this part, and pop it on when you're ready to use. This one's real simple. It only has a high and a low. It also doesn't make that much noise, so if I'm making a video and talking to you, it's a good idea. I'm going to start it off on low and just kind of pulse it until I get done. Once I've gotten any major chunks out of it, I'm going to switch the speed to high. Together. I'm a lefty, so I gotta do this. I'm gonna add a little bit more coconut milk, but not too much. You don't want to overdo it. Okay, so far I think I've used maybe a half a cup, roughly. Okay, so here we go, hitting it with blender once again. You can see that it's gone from kind of a chunky, not so appealing looking, to a velvety smooth, there we go, a velvety smooth puree. Take a look. Yum! With all the flavors of fall. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and test and see what my flavor, my spice level is, my seasoning level. You can see that it's just started to, get a good look at that. Yeah, it's smooth, it's velvety. Oh, yum. It really tastes good. Okay, now for plating. I've got my plate here. Now this makes an absolutely terrific side dish. Great use for leftovers. I'm gonna put a little bit on the plate in the middle. Now, if there were like a culinary person, I'd probably shear or smush or whatever they call it. I don't really know, but I'll try. And then what I've done is I've had some pork chops resting for about 10 minutes now. I got a nice deep dark sear on them. Yum, and glistening deliciousness. Using the same spice rub that I described earlier, the one with the cayenne in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this, a little bit of pork deliciousness on the plate. Ta-da! Now I would serve this with a salad, maybe with some asparagus or some roasted Brussels sprouts would be delicious. but I mostly just wanted to give you a look at how you can transform your everyday leftovers into weeknight dinner heroes. I'm going to go ahead. I'll actually cut off a piece on this one because I made such a pretty plate. I'll take a picture. Gonna grab a spoon, grab a fork, cut into a small piece of the pork, a little bit of puree with it. Try it out. Okay, so if you were yearning for a little bit of fall on a plate, this is the dish for you. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Enjoy your Caribbean-inspired pork chop with sweet potato puree. See you next time. Bye.